Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger podcast, where each and every week we hang out with the greatest harmonica players in the music business. If you're watching this on the Horner Music Facebook page, make sure you hit that share button, share it to your personal profile, help us spread the word. If you're watching this on the Harpslinger YouTube page, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ding the bell so we can keep you up to date on all the future podcasts that are coming out. We've got a great slate of artists on the way, and we've back cataloged all of our interviews to date, so make sure you check that out. Okay, everybody. My next guest has won 4 Grammy Awards, toured with the Beatles, backed Bo Diddley and Howlin' Wolf, helped to inspire the Blues Brothers, and performed everywhere from Saturday Night Live to Austin City Limits. His songs have been sung by Garth Brooks, Waylon Jennings, Emmylou Harris, and many, many more, including yours truly, myself. Lyle Lovett is quoted by saying, "If we could all sing like we want to, we'd all sound like Delbert McClinton," and I have to agree. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest, Mr. Delbert McClinton. How you feeling, Delbert?
I'm good, man. I'm good as it can get, I guess.
Well, you're looking good, my friend. You're looking.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're dealing with this weather, you know. Hopefully we'll get to spring soon.
Oh, boy, I'm so ready.
I'm
know.
So ready. Just to get out of the house.
I promised myself a couple of days ago that I was never going to spend another January and February and March in Nashville because the sun never shines.
It rains a lot here. I feel like I'm in like Seattle or something.
Oh, it's a bad time to be around. Well, I don't like cold weather. If it gets below 50, I'm out.
Well, you're a Texas guy at heart, you know. It's warmer down there.
Well, it is warmer down there, but you know, just in general, cold weather. I can't imagine going out and getting in and skiing. I mean, you know, but I know people love that, and that's fine. But to me, it's absurd to get out and frolic in this. Well, that's enough.
Yeah, well,
I'm unhappy with the weather. Let's leave it with that.
As am I. I'm a beach guy. Send me to the beach any day of the week, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. So you're originally, we mentioned Texas, you're originally from Lubbock, and yep. And you, as an early lad, you moved to Fort Worth?
I moved to Fort Worth in 1951, so I had just turned 11 years old.
Okay, great. I lived in Dallas with my wife for 11 years. Loved Texas.
I'm so sorry.
I actually loved living in the Metroplex. It's really
okay.
Yeah, but so when, you know, in 51 you moved there. You started getting into music, I'm sure, early on. It's been a lifelong pursuit for you. But when did you come across your first harmonica? When did that experience happen?
Well, you know, I grew up. I can't remember when there wasn't a harmonica around. That doesn't mean that every day there was, but I picked up the harmonica first time I heard "Honest I Do."
Okay, I'm not familiar with that song.
Jimmy Reed.
Okay.
Big hit.
Yeah, I got to go check.
Don't you know that I love you?
Nice.
So, but you know, when I started buying harmonicas, they were 75 cents a piece.
Uh-huh.
And they're about $30 now.
Yeah, at least, right?
Yeah, at least. Fortunately, I've got a box that was sent to me.
Okay.
From Honor.
From Honor. Nice.
But you know, it's I just couldn't get enough of it when I first started playing after hearing Jimmy Reed. I mean, I'd heard other harp players before, but I'm about as big a Jimmy Reed fan as there is.
Okay.
His lyrics are brilliant if you can understand them, because he drank a lot.
Uh-huh.
But even then, when you can't understand them, it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't understand them, it's even more magic.
Right on. You know, when I think of Texas, having played in bands in Texas for a decade, I think of now what they call red dirt music or Texas music. I think of roots and country music. Of course, Texas blues is there, but that's not my first go to when I think of music in Texas. How was it that you stumbled onto the blues?
Well, in the beginning, when I started it, there was a radio station in Dallas, KNOK Radio. It's a
Hmm.
black station. This was
Hmm.
still during segregation,
Okay.
and they played all the stuff that I wanted to hear.
Uh-huh.
And so I was a big fan of KNOK Radio. Not just me, but all the guys I played with. We started our education from listening to KNOK.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. Was that
I
out of
mean,
Fort
that's
Worth?
huh?
Was that in Fort Worth, this station?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no, it was in Dallas, but
Same. Right.
you get the station
Yeah.
in Dallas.
Sure.
So that's where it started. But I've been all my life before I ever even knew it. This is what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pick this. It picked me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just you couldn't beat me down. You
Right.
couldn't beat me back.
Uh-huh.
Not just me, but a lot of guys. They're all dead now. All the guys that I played with in the '60s and '70s are dead.
Uh-huh.
All of them.
Right.
I was going through some old pictures and stuff recently, and found a promo shot of the Rondells.
Uh-huh.
I'm the only one that's alive.
Oh.
Of course, I'm a fugitive from the law of averages too.
Yes, I think you are, man. I think it's a
Yeah.
great way to put it.
Now, so it's I've got recently I've got my hands on a tape that was recorded in a club we played in Fort Worth in 1964,
Mm-hmm.
and best guitar player and best drummer I've ever heard in my life. They're just the best.
Wow.
And
And this was the Rondells?
yeah,
Nice. That was your first band, right? I mean, the Rondells was your
nope, nope.
straight
Uh,
maybe?
the very first band was the Mellow Fellows,
Mellow Fellas. Okay. All right. All right.
and the Mellow Fellows had 4 guitar players. None of us could play. The drummer had a snare drum and a hi hat and a floor tom.
Okay.
And well, I guess when it really kicked in for me was in 1957. I had an aunt and uncle that came through Fort Worth on the way to home to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
Cocoa Beach, Florida, and this was my mother's youngest sister, and so she was a big fan of mine from the get-go. And they took I went home to Florida with them, and she entered me in a talent contest at the oh God, I can't even think of the name of the motel anymore. It was where all the astronauts used to stay.
Okay.
And every Wednesday night of the month, they'd have a talent contest. And at the last Wednesday night of the month, all of the previous week winners would come, and at the end, a winner would be picked, and
Uh-huh.
I won.
Nice.
Won $100.
At
Bought a
17.
guitar with it when I got home.
Nice.
Bought a sweet little Martin. I'd give anything if I still had it. Anyway, I don't, among a lot of other things. But um, I had been tinkering with having a band, you
Uh,
know, and when I got home after that, that's when I really started putting a band together.
right. Okay.
Uh, we played the first night in Dallas at the oh God, what's the name? Sportatorium.
Uh-huh.
Big old place. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
They
They
used
used to have
to
wrestling night. They had a wrestling ring in there.
Yeah.
Well, they also had music in there, and they take the poles and the ropes down, and you got a square stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were one of the 3 bands that opened the show for the first time Jerry Lee Lewis came through town.
Man.
And we were terrible, but we were terrible, but boy, we were eager, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And matter of fact, when Jerry Lee was doing a show, being part of the event, I was kind of backstage, and I was standing right at the edge of the stage watching it. And he stood up and kicked his bench, and it went right by my head, inches, and scared the piss out of me at first. And then I really got excited about it. I nearly got knocked out by Jerry Lee Lewis's bench.
Yeah.
You know, little things.
Force of nature, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, man? I took my daughter to see him about 3 years ago. He played here at Ryman in Nashville. And his sister opened the show doing a bunch of rockabilly covers. And then they pulled the curtains, and when they opened them, Jerry Lee was sitting on the bench, and it was the saddest looking thing. Little old skinny neck sticking up there. The coat he had on looked like it looked so stiff, and it looked like he sat down and they just sat it around him.
Yeah.
You know, it was too big for him. It looked terrible. And it was a weak show. I mean, you know, nothing lasts forever.
Right.
But my only feeling that I get is, boy, they shouldn't trot him out to do that, you know.
Right.
And he played bits and pieces of songs and only played for about 40 minutes and it was over.
Right.
But hell, they're all dead, you know.
Yeah. Right. I mean, so
all the people from my time,
yeah,
are pretty much gone. I'm really hard pressed right now to think of anybody that's not.
Right.
That was in the same realm I was in.
You've been at this for a long time, you know.
Well, I've been at it since about 55.
You came around in the golden age of
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It couldn't be better.
Yeah, that what a background. And you didn't just open up for acts like rock and roll or rockabilly acts. You were opening up for some of the greatest blues acts of all time. Sonny
Well, I
Boy
wasn't
Williamson.
opening up for them at that time. We were the band.
Oh, you were backing up these guys.
Back then, everybody in the world wasn't in a band. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like today, everybody's in a band or was in a band or trying to get in a band.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't going on. The people would go out and they would play with a band, local band.
Right.
And we knew all of his stuff. We knew Sonny Boy's stuff. We knew Buster Brown's stuff. Howlin' Wolf.
Right.
Howlin' Wolf, I'll never forget the first night we played with him. We didn't even introduce him. He just, we said, well, okay, we're going to do the 3 or 4 songs and you come up, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, he comes walking out, grabbed the microphone and stepped out on the dance floor and started singing. And we were looking at each other like, what is he? And what, you know, and he turned around and said, come on, band. And of course we got it right quick because we knew his stuff too.
Yeah.
I've got an old tape made of us in 1964 at a beer joint in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And it's so badass.
Right on.
Well, I sound like a squeaky little guy singing, but I was, you know, I knew the songs and it was good in that respect. But the point I'm trying to get to is the guitar player, Bob Jones, he's long gone, and Ray Torres was the drummer. They're the best 2 players I've ever played with.
Man.
And this was 64. And I've got a tape of that night.
Wow. You know, some of the greatest players I've ever played with were guys from Texas, I have to be honest.
Well, I have to agree with you, but then Texas is a big place.
Yeah, it is. It's a country, yeah.
And Texas has a great musical history because it's country music, it's popular music, it's blues music, and it's Cajun music. And
yeah, it's all there.
It was all the time, you
Yeah.
know. Oh God, what was that? What was that say? WLAC, not WLAC, XERF Cunucuaila, Mexico. What's his name?
Wow, you got
What's
me.
it? Oh, come on, Wolfman Jack.
Oh, Wolfman Jack. Okay, sure. Yeah. Hey.
And he would play songs, man. He would play uh, Minnie Pearl one song, and the next one would be uh, John Lee Hooker,
Wow.
and the next one would be a bluegrass song.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the hour, he would offer all of these songs in a package
Yeah.
that you could buy.
Wow.
So he played everything,
Yeah.
and it was the best. It was the best. You know, it's fun. If you were trying to learn music, that was the best radio station around because he played it all.
Yeah. It's become way too compartmentalized. I mean, nowadays.
Oh, it is. That, you know, I hate to hear. Well, what kind of music do you play? There's only two kinds. There's music you like and music you don't like.
That's it, man.
And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
And call it what you want to.
That call it what you want to. That's right. That's right. So you know you that was on the job training. I mean, like you back.
Absolutely. And the first joint I ever smoked in my life was Rice Miller, Sonny Boy II, in the bathroom of a black barbecue joint in Lawton, Oklahoma.
Oh man, I think that's the coolest joint smoking story I may have ever heard.
It was a wonderful time. I remember we were playing July the 4th in Fort Worth,
Uh-huh.
in Como, which was the black part of town.
Uh-huh.
I hate to say that. It was segregation,
Sure.
and it was, you know, we were standing outside on a break. It's hot as hell. It's 4th of July.
Yeah.
We were standing outside on a break. Me and 2 or 3 of the guys in the band, and we're talking with some of the people there. And this woman came walking through the people, and the guy that was standing right next to me, she walked up and just shoved a knife in his stomach and turned around and walked away.
Wow. So these were some joints you were playing.
Oh man, beer joints.
Yeah.
Beer joints. Another one we played in Lubbock, Texas. I forget the real name of the place, but it was called the Bloody Bucket. And when we were leaving there that night, there was 2 guys fighting out in the parking lot. One of them was trying to crawl under a car, and the other one was just stabbing him as fast as he could in the back of his legs.
Oh man.
4 or 5 times. And we were leaving, and the sax player and I were hustling along together. And he said, "Don't worry, I got a 45." And I looked over, and he was holding a 45 record. Of somebody we were.
Yeah. It's nice to have a sense of humor in a moment like that, I suppose.
Well, you know, it's well, yeah, it wasn't funny, but
Right.
it was
No.
funny when he said that. But this was also his kind of humor, you know.
Yeah, right.
Real dry humor, guys. "Don't worry, I got a 45." And I looked over there, and he was holding a record.
Well,
Anyway, you know.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, so you know all of these wonderful experiences early in your coming up career. What sort of things did you learn from these guys?
Well, geez, what did I learn from them? I learned. I tried real hard to learn the essence of what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
because I could never experience what black people went through.
Right.
So the closest I could get to it was to listen to them and relate to it in their terms,
Yeah.
and admire the pathos, whatever
Sure.
of what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
And you know, most of the times we'd have to go by the New Gym Hotel, which is a black hotel in Fort Worth,
Mm-hmm.
and pick up whoever we were backing up that night, and then go to the club,
Okay.
because he wasn't allowed to stay in
Right. Segregation. Right.
it was all so bizarre, man, so bizarre, because I never bought into that. I remember when I was a little kid in Lubbock, Texas, J.C. Penney's was the biggest store in town, and I
Mhm.
was in there one day with my mother shopping, and I was 9 or 10 years old, maybe. No, yeah, 9 or 10 years old. probably about 9. And first time I ever noticed black and white drinking fountains.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my mother, I said, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what she said, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same old thing that everybody says, oh, honey, well, they're not like us.
Right.
You know, some dipshit, no good. But my parents grew up in that, so that's who they were.
That's right.
My parents weren't racist, other than they didn't know any better, and they played in to anything anybody said about black people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as far back as I can remember, I never understood that.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the same thing today.
Yeah. There's some crazy shit going on. Mm-hmm.
There is, and it's so awful, man. But it's not the same. It's not the same. It's come quite a long ways, but they're still beaten down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll fight for that with my dying breath.
Right on.
Because it's just fucked up.
It is. I'm with. Bruce Channel came along.
Chanel. I know it's spelled channel, but he says it's Chanel.
Okay. Well, that's more sophisticated sounding for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce is a hard one to get past in the first place.
Yeah.
Delbert's even harder.
That's a great name. Is that a family name, or where did that come?
No, my mother had a boyfriend when she was in school named Delbert.
Uh-huh. She liked that name.
Oh, that's what I heard.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was a grown man before I met another Delbert.
Yeah.
And we were playing a show in D.C. in the ballpark, opening up for wrestling matches.
Okay.
And me and the band were sitting up in the bleachers there in the backstage area, and this huge black deputy sheriff came walking up there. He says, "Which one of y'all's Delbert?" And of course, you know, instantly I thought, well, what the hell would he be looking for me?
Yeah.
And I said, I held my hand up, and he said, "My name's Delbert too." And I'll tell you something you won't believe, and it's the truth. There's another Delbert McClinton. There's two of them.
No, there can't be. They must have been named after you, man.
No. The first one, I didn't meet him, but I met his wife. I had flown to Albuquerque to meet up with my two sons who flew in from Texas, and we were going to spend a week in Santa Fe and the area, you know. Mm-hmm. And as I came off the plane, my two sons they came in a little bit early. They were right there. I walked over to them, and we were talking, and this old woman older than me came up and said, "You're Delbert McClinton, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Wait right here." She went over and got her husband. Said, "This is Delbert McClinton too." I said, "Bullshit." I didn't say that, but
you thought that, right?
Yeah. But he took his driver's license. He's still alive, lives in Louisiana.
Oh man.
And there's another one that when all this Facebook stuff started, and he lives in Dubuque. He's proud of being from Dubuque. Okay. And Dubuque is a part of Missouri, I think.
Oh yeah, sure. The boot heel.
Yeah. Yeah. And he changed something because he's not there anymore. But when he was saying, "I'm from Dubuque. I love my family. I love my motorcycles. I love this and that, you know, and I'm from Dubuque."
Yeah.
And I don't know who this other Delbert is. You know? But I didn't know. I said, "My God, I can't believe it. What's the chances of somebody else being named Delbert McClinton? Delbert in the first place."
It's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a great stage name, it turns out, right? Because, you know, it's so identifiable with you.
You know, I've learned to live with it and embrace it, you know, because what the hell are you going to do? That's what it is, you know. Your face is what it is. Get used to it and make it work for you, you know.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Oh, man. Well, so was Bruce Chanel in Fort Worth as well? I mean, how did this connection happen? I mean,
all right. Bruce lived in Grapevine, which is
okay, sure,
right between, you know.
Yeah.
And there was a guy in Fort Worth, only guy in town. Now you got to put this in perspective. You know, this was before all this stuff that's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
this was the infancy of rock and roll.
Right. Okay.
Uh, and Major Bill Smith, he was an ex Air Force officer, and he was the only one in town. His nemesis was a guy in Houston. Okay, I think his name.
Huey.
Huey Moe.
Yeah.
Thank you. They were. He was the Huey Moe of Fort Worth.
Okay.
They were both full of shit as you can be, you know. And he's a red-faced guy, and he was always talking like, you know, he's talking like Donald Trump.
Yeah. Right.
You know.
Right.
And he would call. I got to know him because I got to know him, and I knew he was the only guy in town that was recording anybody.
Uh-huh.
And he would call me to get some players together for his new artists he discovered, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal was that when we got through with his artists, whatever time was left on the session, we could record whatever we wanted to. So it was, you know, it was the best deal I could get.
Yeah.
And he called me up and said, I got this guy coming in, blah, 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 blah. And it was Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I hit it off immediately. He's just his Bruce McMemes and Delbert McClinton. How much more cornbread can you get, you know?
I love it.
And he came in, and of course Bruce is he's still a monster. He lives about a mile from me here in Nashville, but okay. We hit it off immediately. And I got some guys together from my band. Well, a couple of them were from my band. The others I had to find somewhere else. But Bruce came in and he started playing Hey Baby, and I started playing harmonica, which took about two takes, and we had it.
Wow.
When he started playing it on a guitar, I just played that harp part.
Unbelievable. That just came to you.
It just, you know.
That's a gift, man. I mean, that's a signature lick for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody
absolutely
knows that harp part.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but it just happened. You know, it wasn't like anything planned. Bruce was very, very able to express himself with just him and a guitar and nothing else.
Uh-huh.
Because he's just that talented.
Yeah.
And got a great big voice. So, you know, we recorded 3 or 4 songs. And after we finished that day, Major Bill was all excited over Dream Girl, which ended up being the flip side of Hey Baby.
Okay.
It's a ballad. And, oh man, this is a smash hit. That was his term. It's a smash. It's a smash. And everything to him was a smash. We told him that day, said, man, you're crazy. This is the hit. Oh no, it's Dream Girl. It's Dream Girl. It's beautiful. So he ran it past Huey Moe, and Huey Moe offered him $1,000 for half ownership of it. Well, that set the major off. He knew then that Hey Baby was the one.
Right. He needed to hear it from somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Besides
guys that really knew what was going on.
Yeah, right. So that's the way that happened.
Wow. You know, I've spent a great deal of time in Europe, mostly German-speaking countries, and you can imagine
that's their song.
That man, you hear that song over there. Like
about thousands of people singing it.
Yeah.
Bruce went over to Germany several years ago. They invited him over to sing it at the game.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So he toured. He went to Europe, did some touring, and you ended up doing some touring with the Beatles, right? Is that right?
Well, like I said, let's start back at they put Hey Baby out.
Okay.
And once again, nobody had bands then.
Uh-huh.
And Bruce went on the road in the U.S. and one of those package shows where there's 6 or 7 artists and they all use the same band.
Sure.
Well, he had been doing that. And when this tour of the British Isles came up, he told me the only way I'll take it is if I can bring Delbert, because saxophones had been doing the harp line, and he said it just don't work.
Uh-huh.
Just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I got to go.
Nice. Nice.
And I got into to London a day before Bruce, and of course I was on cloud nine, man. I was, first time I'd been to New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas, and that's it.
Right. Okay.
And I took a midnight flight out of Dallas into New York, and the next day met Major Bill there, and we got on a flight to England.
Uh-huh.
And we were flying, and we were just about there, and the sun was shining, not a cloud in the sky, but there were clouds below us. As we started down through those clouds, it became the sight in the drizzling rain of my idea of England.
Sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, and we landed, and it was misting and dreary looking, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
I just was, man, this is, I was very excited. I was 21 years old.
Right. England's supposed to look like that somehow, right? I mean,
well, to me, it was supposed to, and it did.
Yeah.
But so the first thing that I remember that was really odd for me is we got in a taxi to go to the hotel, and I'm sitting where the driver's usually sitting, because it's backwards in England.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was a hoot,
Right.
know. And it took me some time to get used to crossing the street because I'd always looked the wrong way. And you get your ass run over.
Sure.
In fact, I almost got creamed by a guy on a bicycle.
Right. Right.
Anyway, it's little shit like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so the next day I had this all to myself. No, wait, let me back up. We got to the hotel from the airport, went into the hotel, checked in, and I realized I'd left my harps in the cab.
Oh.
My whole kit of harmonicas.
Yeah.
So God, I didn't know whether to shit or go blind.
Uh-huh.
So somebody at the desk said, well, there's a Horner manufacturing plant here in London. So I jumped in a cab. I went over there. I bought everything I needed. I got back to the hotel, and the guy at the front desk said, cab driver dropped these off, said you left them in the car. So I had a shitload of harmonicas, right? Yeah. So I had the whole next day free by myself. And so I caught a cab to Hyde Park.
Yeah.
And spent the whole day walking around, trying stuff. They had little hard candies you could buy, and you suck on them, and it finally, there's a shot of liquor inside them.
Okay.
Cognac, bourbon, whatever. And I thought that was a hoot. So you won't find this in Fort Worth.
Right.
And the other thing that really surprised me, that the milk wasn't cold. It was sitting on the table, warm milk.
Right.
And I thought, well, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And one place we went to eat, Bruce and I, it was kind of an uptown place, and Bruce ordered, it was a place called the Brush and Palette. There were artists painting nude women in the restaurant, and which was another thing you wouldn't find in Fort Worth.
Certainly not. Yeah.
But Bruce ordered the Yorkshire pudding.
Okay. Very British.
We ate our meal, and he said, well, wonder where that pudding is. He stopped the waiter and he says, hey, where's that Yorkshire pudding? The guy leaned over and looked down his nose, and he says, you've eaten it, sir.
Classic.
Yeah.
So
the first night of our show, in the daytime, they had a band for us to play with called the Barons. We went out. The first night we were going to play was I think it's Maid's Head, right outside of London.
Okay.
And we went over early in the day to rehearse with this band. When we got there, it was early in the afternoon. There were two girls at the back door of this place, and they went batshit crazy over seeing Bruce.
Yeah.
And just on and on and on and on and on. I mean, and we went in, and hours later, we did the show, and then a couple hours after the show, we were leaving, and we were traveling. We were doing shows at the Granada Theaters, which is like the old Paramount theaters were all ornate,
Okay.
and it was a package show with Bruce Chanel culminating the end of it.
Right.
And so I would go out that first show, well, and every show. I'd go out and do two songs, and then I'd bring Bruce out,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd already be on stage. And that first night when Bruce came out and he did his bit, and there was a fence down there, but it wasn't much of anything to deter anybody.
Sure.
I
Sure.
mean, you would have to climb to get over it, but it was about 4 feet tall. Anyway, when Bruce got done with the show, he turned around, they were playing it out, and he turned over and put his guitar on the stand, and people were just reaching for him, and he walked down there to shake somebody's hand, and they grabbed him. And I reached out and grabbed him by his belt in the back of his pants and pulled him back. They like to took his wedding ring off his ring off his hand. I don't know if he wasn't married then. Took almost tore his ring off and his coat. I mean, they just wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to the madness of rock and roll.
Right.
And when we left that night, we all traveled on one big bus, like old school bus.
Uh-huh.
And when we were pulling out that night, of course, there were hundreds of people out there, and we had to inch our way through it all in that bus. And I heard this girl yelling, "Bruce, look, look." And I looked down there, and it was those two girls that were there earlier, and they had taken something and cut Bruce's name into their forearm.
Oh my.
They were bloody and swollen, and it said Bruce. And I thought, my God, man, this is
crazy.
I'm gonna have to get a better take on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that was, like I said, that was my introduction to the madness of rock and roll.
Right on. That's a great introduction, actually. I mean, that's the spirit of rock and roll.
Yeah,
right?
there was no denying it. It was a little bit freaky, a little bit scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. They were a little more crazy than
If I had to grabbed him at that second that I did, because they were a couple of people already had a hold of him. You don't shake hands.
No.
Well, he never did again.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. We're the now there's a lot of folklore around your involvement with John Lennon and teaching him to play.
Well, I didn't teach him to play. That's been romanticized as such things become.
Okay.
But it's a good story. The Beatles were the opening act on a couple of shows.
Okay.
First time I met them was I say the first time I met him. I only met him once, but I went out in London one night with John. He came by and picked me up, and which was it was Beatnik City before there were ever Beatniks here. And they were in dark rooms doing unbelievable shit all around you. But that first time we played with them, that was also the second half of the tour. We were doing club dates, and that's what we were doing when I met the Beatles.
All right.
Before that, was that the
theaters,
whatever the name of that.
Granada.
The Granada, thank you. Yeah. Everybody in one of the bands when we were doing that would come to the dressing room and say, "Show me how you do that." Well, you can't show anybody
right
what you're doing on the harmonica.
It's different than guitar, right? Or piano.
Well, it is. I mean, my go-to answer for that is it's kind of like masturbation. You fool around with it, you'll figure it out.
I love that. That's classic.
Well, it's true. I mean, it is, because you can't say you suck here and you blow here and then you suck here again right quick. You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So this night, John Lennon came to the dressing room. All of them were in the dressing room. We got a picture of us all.
Wow. Yeah.
Uh, and he and I hit it off immediately. And but he was already fooling around with the harmonica.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I showed him what I could.
Right.
I said, you kind of here's kind of what you do,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
And then somewhere down the road, it got in the press and yada 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 that I taught him.
Right.
And
That's pretty cool. Even I mean, even that's a great story.
Well, it is, but it's things are just better when they're romanticized, right?
Yeah. Sure.
They just are.
Yeah.
And they anything that's attractive is going to be romanticized.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
At some point, because somebody's going to say, well, I was there when so-and-so did this.
Right.
And this, and it all gets romanticized. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Well, just a little bit more about the harmonica, and if I could take one step back to the days when you were working with guys like Sonny Boy, Buster Brown. Did those guys show you or?
Oh yeah, that's where I learned to play.
Okay.
Where I learned to play was from those guys.
I mean,
I remember I couldn't wait for Buster Brown to come because in Fannie Mae,
mm-hmm.
the harp solo, he starts it with a note that's not on the harmonica, and I worried over that till I about lost my mind.
Yeah.
And come to find out, when I met him, he hollers that first line. Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right. Hollers that first note.
Nice. That's fantastic. I love the shit you've learned from these guys. Well, you're just a fantastic harmonica player. That is true. You're also one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And I'm a singer as well, so I could spend the rest of the day asking you questions about singing, but I'm curious, were you just born with this voice, Delbert, or was this something that you worked on and over the?
Well, I worked on it a great deal, but yeah. I was born with it.
Yeah.
Because before I even knew what I was going to do in life, it already had a hold on me.
Uh-huh.
All of the war music from the 40s
mm-hmm.
is still my favorite music.
Great music.
Well, you look at that time period. It was the worst time in the world for this country. We were in a world war.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is still the most uplifting.
Right.
And the artists from the 40s, you didn't go back and redo what you did. You had to do it right the first time.
Right.
And that is admirable beyond being able to explain to anybody. Here's something I heard a year or so ago that just let me know that, boy, it's going past me, and that's fine. One of these little silly little girls, rock and roll. I guess it's, I don't know what they call it. Kiddie music is more what it's like.
Right.
Little girls that almost do show you their nipples, those kind of, that draws a crowd.
Well, yeah.
Ugly old men don't draw crowds, I mean, you're up against anyway. One little girl, this little girl, and I call her little girls because I got to.
Right.
She was a singer, and she, and everybody was giving this one girl shit for lip syncing.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl came to her defense, and she said, well, I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't ever go on stage without auto-tune.
Ooh.
And I sat back and I said, well, where's the fucking payoff?
Right.
And it's still that way.
Yeah. It's become so prevalent, Delbert, that you can hear it. I mean, trained ears. You and I've been in the studio.
You can hear it.
You can hear the tuning going on. It's so prevalent that if you're not tuning vocals now, it doesn't sound like it should be on the radio, even if everything's in tune.
none of it sounds like it ought to be on the radio.
Oh,
And to me, I mean, music has been so incredibly dumbed down in the last 30 years,
hmm
in my opinion.
hmm
In my opinion, of course, anybody listening to me is going to say, well, that old fart, his time is come and gone, and he don't have any idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, I got a pretty good idea of some things that are going on. And you look at some of these artists and how you, this is a weird way to do it, but how you gonna, back when I was growing up, some of my mothers or some friends over at the house, and they'd want me to play Folsom Prison Blues
hmm
guitar, or they just wanted to show it off. How are some of these artists gonna entertain in the front room when they don't have auto tune and they don't have all the bullshit going around them?
hmm
What are they gonna do to you got to have all this stuff
Yeah.
for me to get up there and pretend to.
Right.
And that's what it all is. It's pretending.
Yeah.
It's most, not all of it. Lady Gaga is badass.
She is badass. She
She
can sing
is
anything.
badass.
Yep.
She is flat ass badass.
hmm
And she's the only one that impresses me really in the new. I mean, there's some great singers, but it's not stuff I want to hear.
hmm
And so I'm grading everything on what appeals to me.
Right.
Because
Right.
I am an antique, and what goes on today in music is nowhere close to what it was when I was growing up. I don't understand. Well, once again, where's the payoff?
Right.
What
Right.
do you get from it
hmm
when you go up there and what you do is manipulated? How do you come off of that and have pride in yourself?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Uh, it's all it's all the posing, you
hmm
know.
Yeah.
And to help, they'll let their shit hang out,
Right. Right.
or have a wardrobe malfunction or whatever.
Right.
Bend over and show you their ass, or what's that got to do with music?
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you something funny that happened just this last week, 4 or 5 days ago.
Uh-huh.
I spent the day listening to Frank Sinatra.
My favorite singer, other than one.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. I was listening along, and I jerked my head around. I thought I heard him make a mistake. And I said, no fucking way.
Right.
And I
Right.
went back, and he didn't make a mistake. But I wrote down in this journal I keep, I said, today I heard Frank Sinatra almost make a mistake.
Right. I think Quincy Jones said he was the greatest musician, or at least one of the greatest musicians he'd ever worked with was Frank Sinatra.
Well, Frank Sinatra and Hank Williams,
hmm
uh,
Yeah.
there's you don't I don't know anybody that's ever beat that.
Right. Right.
Now there's been some great country singers in the last 45 years,
Absolutely.
but Hank Williams was the guy.
Yeah. With his songwriting abilities, his vocal, his
Well,
delivery.
I
Was
just
amazing.
recently, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no, you're not interrupting.
I went out to Kevin McKendry, who is in the band, my band. I
Uh-huh.
hate to call it my band. It's not my band, our band. Uh, and his son is 18 years old, and he's the same kind of freak that Kevin is. They just know how to do it better than anybody I've ever seen. This
Uh-huh.
kid's 17, 18 years old,
Wow.
and he plays everything, and
Mhm.
he plays it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
Well, I went out 2 days ago, and we recorded a couple of songs that I'd written.
uh-huh.
Uh, but something else that I did a couple of months ago is a bucket list of mine was to record some Hank Williams songs.
Uh-huh.
Well, I went out, I got a hold of, oh, God, well, I can't remember anybody's name anymore. Randy Scruggs.
Sure.
And he got some guys together, and we went out to Kevin's. Kevin's got a studio. and we cut 2 of my songs Hank Williams style and 6 Hank Williams songs.
Nice.
With exactly the instrumentation Hank used. No drums.
Okay.
Bass, steel guitar, fiddle, and rhythm guitar.
Uh-huh.
And they sound great.
Yeah, I bet.
They sound so good. I'm so pleased with it. And I'm gonna do more of that. I've got 6 of them, and I'm gonna do 4 or 5 more, and and put it out.
I just listened to Prick of the Litter. First of all, that's maybe the greatest.
It's Chris Scruggs, not Randy Scruggs.
Chris.
I screwed it up. It's Chris.
I was just listening to your 2017 album, Prick of the Litter, and first of all, that's maybe the greatest album title of all time. I love your sense of humor.
I thought so.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But that's very speaking about music from the past, Hank Williams, the instrumentation. This record is very reminiscent of a bygone era. It reminds me of the era of standards from the 40s.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I like I said before, all that music from the 40s and stuff. It's to me still the most powerful music.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I turn to at the end of the day when I've listened to everything else in order to chill out and get the feel good that I need. I listen to serious 40s junction.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Or I listen to on Spotify to whoever
right.
I want to listen to.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I don't know. Music. I don't know what's going to happen now because this way of life is over. I don't expect to ever return to the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that I could enjoy myself in front of a bunch of yahoos. How am I going to get in the mood to get down when your next breath may kill you?
Right.
So it's going to have to music is going to have to
figure it out, right?
Figure it out. Going to have to figure it out, and I don't know the answer, and I don't care. Like I said, I've done what I want to do, and I can do anything else I want to, and I am. But all of this stuff means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I can't worry about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I got what I wanted, and I got it while the getting was good.
Yes, you did. You were right there, man. Right. Let's talk about your songwriting for a minute because I'm a big fan of your songwriting.
So am I.
Yeah, man. Is this when did this passion start for you? Was it I've talked to other songwriters and they're like, well, man, we just wanted to write songs that we could play, and that's how it started for me. It wasn't like I had this passion necessarily to be a lyricist or a songwriter, but it was out of necessity. But what's your story? When did it start for you?
Well, my passion is to be a lyricist.
Uh-huh.
It always has been.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just when I was in high school, I remember had a school paper. The football team was the Yellow Jackets. So this paper is really
yeah.
Well, so the school paper, which is bi-monthly or whatever, I don't know. They were going to have the Christmas edition,
mm-hmm.
and everybody in every English class was to write a poem, and they would pick the best to be on the front page of the Jacket Journal.
Mm-hmm.
I won.
Nice.
I wrote a poem about Christmas to a blind boy.
Wow. You were in perspective even then. You were seeing the world differently. That's what it takes, right, to be a great songwriter.
Well, it does. People who don't listen to the lyrics, and there are a lot of people.
Yeah, there are actually.
It blows my mind. Well, it doesn't blow my mind so much anymore because there are no lyrics to listen to.
I mean, the form of songs has changed so much. Even
I mean, it's rub a dub dub. You know, uh, not everybody, but most of the music today is shit, in my opinion.
right. I hear you. I hear you.
And if you don't like what I say, well, fuck off.
You know, one of my absolute favorites is Two More Bottles of Wine.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a good one.
What's the story behind that song? You know, I don't know.
It's got a great story. I'll tell it to you.
Yeah.
I ran off to California in 71, I think. I was separated from my first wife, and that was all a bag of worms. It was just, it was hard. And I had to make a break. It was either get a job or do something.
Right.
So I did what everybody did. I jumped up and ran off to California. It was funny because I was playing this beer joint in Fort Worth one night, and this girl came in that I hadn't seen in about 3 years that I knew when we were younger. We all ran around in the same crowd. Well, she came into the beer joint that night, and sparks started flying between me and her. She had just got a divorce and come back to Fort Worth and had mad money and a 66 Chrysler Imperial.
That sounds like a song right there.
So we got together and kind of set the whole town on fire with our love story and Glenn Clark, he had moved out to California about a year before. He was living with Ray Clark, who was the drummer in the first band I ever put together. And they kept telling me, "Man, you got to come out here. You got to come out here." And that's about the time I was starting to really get into songwriting. And so at some point, her name was Maggie, and I said, "Hey, you want to go to California?" She said, "Sure." I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. And we took off, went to California. And they were, the place where Ray Clark's house was Topanga Canyon.
Sure.
And so we drove out to Topanga Canyon when we got to LA and stopped and called Ray, said, "We're at the bottom of the hill, man." And he came down to get us. And I hadn't seen Ray in several years, and he had hair all the way down his back. Yeah. And I still had a straight haircut, you know. And that's when I started growing my hair. That's when I turned hippie. But they came down and got us, and they lived on this house on the hill. And you're familiar with Topanga, any of the canyons out there, they just canyon walls, Yeah. Well, he lived on this house that was on the side of a hill. And we got there, and there was another couple rode out there with us, friends of mine. And then they flew back later. But there was 4 of us drove out there. And so we got out there, and we'd been going for a couple of days, a day and a half driving. And so we all needed to shower, and they're on a septic tank there, right? And this house is the upper part. The lower part has a dirt floor, and it's kind of a storage area.
Okay.
Well, that night, Maggie and I, our place to sleep was on the lower part, on the dirt, on an old mattress. So when we went to bed, and I woke up sometime in the middle of the night to go pee, and we were floating in overflow from the septic tank.
Oh.
Welcome to California.
Yeah, what a welcome. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Finally, we moved into because it was me at that point. Then it was me and Maggie and Glenn. Glenn and I were going to, we were going to do it together. And so we moved in. We went to Venice,
Okay.
and we got a rented an apartment in this building. I can't remember the real name of the building, but it was known as Methadone Manor. And the first thing everybody told you is don't walk around barefoot on the roof because there's rigs everywhere.
Okay.
So we moved into this place, and it had 4 locks on the door. It was painted black. The ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sink, everything. And we were dumbasses from Fort Worth, and we didn't know how dangerous it was.
Uh-huh.
And we were walking around at night. We had to park the car down at a parking area,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the night you couldn't sleep because police lights were whirling, and it was dangerous.
Uh-huh.
But we just idiots. We waltzed right through it. But that's where we were living when Maggie came in and told me she'd had enough. Because I still didn't have a job yet.
Yeah.
Ray and Glenn were working at this veterinarian supply warehouse in Santa Monica. So they were trying to get me on there, which fortunately they did.
Uh-huh.
A couple of days after Maggie, she came in. Well, let me tell you how our living space was in this apartment. It was the front room, another room, and a kitchen and a bath. Glenn took the front room. Maggie and I got a mattress from somewhere. I don't know. If
Yeah.
you need a mattress, you find
You find one.
one. And there were double doors in this. I guess it's supposed to be in the bedroom area. Well, we took the doors off their hinges and shoved that mattress, so we had about 3 feet of privacy. Maggie hung a sheer around that, and the furthest away from Glenn we could get was up in that closet, about 3 feet. That was our private area.
3 feet.
Yeah. And she came in one day and said, "I've had enough. I'm out of here." And I sat down on that mattress and wrote 2 more bottles of wine. Just, my songs are short stories.
Uh-huh.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
To me, they are. They all have a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
I mean, lyrically.
Right.
Uh,
Do you write every day? Are you that guy? Are you just constantly writing?
Constantly. It won't ever shut off. A lot of times it's bullshit, but sometimes it's really good.
Yeah. How do you know when you've got a great song?
You know.
You feel it.
You know when it's right, and I don't quit until I feel it's right.
Okay. Elbow grease.
I've got songs that I've had around for years before I finished.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the day before yesterday, when I was out of Kevin's, we were recording 2 new songs I'd written, and one of them was incomplete. But I played it for Kevin and his son, and that, like I said, they're freaks. They can play better than anybody.
Yeah.
And we ended up writing another. They inspired me to finish it, to write another verse.
Yeah.
Day before yesterday, and I've been kicking that around for almost a year.
Uh-huh.
And their talents inspired me to finish it. And that's happened a lot. And that's why I like to get with these guys I work with, because they're so inspirational.
Mm-hmm. What has been the secret for you that's, as you say, sustained you to keep you moving along and being productive and putting out Delbert McClinton records?
Well, because that's what I do.
That's what I do. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hear you.
It just is, the most horrible sentence that I could ever hear from anywhere is, "You need to get a job."
Yeah, I agree.
And I've had jobs,
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother chapter, But I don't know, man. I could put horn parts to the hum of the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just going on all the time, and always has been.
Yeah.
Always.
Flow states.
I love lyrics. I love Well, for example, the song that we recorded a couple of days ago, the one that wasn't finished and I finished it out there.
Mhm.
I'll give you some of the lines, and this is what runs through my head. I put some potatoes in to bake, picked up a couple of real nice steaks. I'm chilling her favorite Chilean wine.
Mhm.
Everything was right on time. But she won't be coming home tonight. They canceled the flight. Yeah. And you can imagine my disappointment at hearing that. Looks like dinner's just gonna be me and a cat. I got no, I really don't, I really do hate bad news. It's just more of something I can't use. So as I sip the wine and whine, I've got the low down, snowbound Connecticut blues.
Right on. I
And the
love it.
last verse that we wrote out there was yesterday was tears running down my face. I got the blues all over the place. Good times just won't let me in. I've tried over and over again. So as I sip the wine and whine, I got the low down, snowbound Connecticut blues.
And you're a storyteller from for real, and
Yeah.
that's something I don't know if you can teach any of those things actually. You know?
Well, I don't know either. You know, I can only know what I know from my side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, uh, it's uh, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, man. You know, you have a biography available, right?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
Can you where can people get this biography? It's
Well, they can go to delbert.com and we'll send you one.
right
Diana
on.
Finley came along. I met her and she asked me, has anybody ever done a book on you? And I said, no, I hadn't even thought about it really. And I said, no. She says, well, I want to write one. So I sat down with her and gave her act. I'm a pack rat. I save stuff. When I die, my children are going to find that I kept everything.
Great. Great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I turned her loose on all of that, and and of course we sat and talked and yada yada yada, and she turned it into a book that went from pretty much like went through a whole lot of stuff that I've talked with you about today.
Sure, sure. Okay.
The high points and the California story and yada yada yada.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Before I let you go, can you tell me a little bit about B Movie Boxcar Blues? That's one of my absolute favorites. I
The
love
day
that
I
song.
wrote that song, Glenn and I were both working at Sharp and Bayard. That's the veterinary supply warehouse.
Okay.
And that day we were working in. Other people would pull all these orders out of the room, you know, the massive place this was,
Yeah.
and put them on a thing that comes down to be packaged. Well, Glenn and I were working back to back, packing this stuff up and getting it ready for UPS.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, you know, doing this, and I started writing a song. I turned around and told Glenn, "Listen to this, man. I just wrote a song." And when I got through with it, he says, "Man, they won't ever let that on the radio."
You mentioned you don't know if you'll ever hit the stage again. What if we get a vaccine? Will you consider doing the Sandy Beaches cruise again?
I've already had both of my shots.
Okay. Yes, I follow you online, so I saw that. Yeah.
So you know, that's that. You know, I still don't feel safe
Mm-hmm.
because there's too many unknowns in this. I cannot at this time imagine getting up and doing a show and enjoying it and getting into it and looking in the faces of all these people that may be giving me a disease.
Right.
And how are any of us going to get together like that? Any of us who are cognizant?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to have that kind of hootenanny and you know, and push that reality out of your head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that way of life is just gone as far as I can tell.
It's scary. It's a scary thought.
We won't. I know you're not going to see coliseums full of people hooting and hollering. You know, people who do what I do have got to find another way to take it,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't foresee anybody going to the big concerts in the near future.
Right.
I'm 80 years old. I don't think it'll happen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then what do I know? You know, I'm just another schmuck.
You might be around for another 20 years, man.
Well, it could be. Uh, uh, I doubt it, but it could be.
I hope so.
Well, I don't know whether I hope so or not. 10 more be plenty.
Okay. All right, man. All right.
I think unless everything goes wrong, right now I'm okay. You know, I'm in relatively good health. I'm a borderline diabetic, and that pisses me off more than anything.
Right. Okay.
Because I can't eat candy and sugar and shit.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. So you know, one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear you. Well, the world needs more Delbert McClintons, and
I agree.
Just don't know where we're going to get them. But
Well,
you know,
I'll be here till I'm not. I'm gonna live till I die.
That's right, man. Delbert, this has been a one of the great moments of my life, to be able to hang out with you, you know, and just have this wonderful conversation. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Well, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed
You're
it.
a national treasure, my friend. And, yeah, we love you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Peace to you, my friend. Take care.
Peace to you. You too.
Bye.